You're being bled dry. Every notification, every mindless scroll, every empty distraction, they're all small cuts, draining you of the focus you fought so hard to build. You can feel your edge dulling, your power seeping away into the digital noise. But what if the answer wasn't another productivity app or some new life hack? What if it was a final doctrine written by a legendary warrior in his last days? The Dokkodo, the way of walking alone, isn't a gentle guide. It's a tactical manual for weaponizing solitude to reclaim absolute focus. This is the Dokkodo Method. To understand the weapon, you have to understand the man who forged it. Miyamoto Musashi was not a philosopher in robes. He was a duelist, an artist, and arguably the greatest swordsman in Japan's history. He fought in over 60 duels and remained undefeated his entire life. His life was a masterclass in strategy, discipline, and the relentless pursuit of perfection. As he neared the end of his life, Musashi didn't retire to a life of comfort. In 1643, he retreated to the Reigandō Cave, the Spirit Rock Cave, a place of stark isolation. This wasn't an escape from the world, but a final strategic move. In that cave, surrounded by nothing but rock and silence, he prepared for his death. In his final weeks, in 1645, he gave away his worldly possessions and gifted his most trusted student, Terra Maganojo, a short text of 21 precepts. He called it the Dokkodo, the way of walking alone. This wasn't a collection of warm, fuzzy thoughts. It was the distilled combat doctrine of a master warrior, a set of principles for moving through the world with clarity, purpose, and total self-reliance. It was the final sharpening of a blade that had never been broken. The first step in weaponizing solitude is to secure your inner fortress. The modern world is an expert at breeding internal chaos through denial and ego. Musashi's doctrine gives us the blueprint for building a foundation of unshakable clarity. The very first precept of the Dokkodo is, accept everything just the way it is. This is probably the most misunderstood of his teachings. Acceptance isn't weakness. It's not just surrendering to your fate. It's about tactical clarity. You can't form a winning strategy against a reality you refuse to actually see. Wasting mental and emotional energy fighting what's already happened is a fatal vulnerability. Musashi, as a swordsman, had to instantly accept his opponent's position, the state of the ground, the sun in his eyes. Denying any of it for a second would mean death. For us, accepting the state of our business, our relationships, or our own flaws is the first and most essential step before any real action can be taken. Building on this, Musashi gives us the fourth precept: think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. In our age of personal branding and self-obsession, this sounds like heresy. But to a warrior, ego is a liability. It's a filter that warps reality, making you overestimate your strengths and underestimate threats. To think lightly of yourself means to drop the crushing weight of self-importance. It's about detaching from the desperate need to be right, to look good, or to defend your pride. When your ego isn't on the line in every single interaction, you're free to see the world with incredible depth and to understand what truly motivates other people. This detachment gives you a strategic advantage that people blinded by their own ego can never have. Once your inner world is secure, you have to cut the supply lines that feed your distractions. Our world has engineered an environment of constant, unearned pleasure, and frankly, it's making you weak. Musashi's path is one of ruthless simplicity. His second precept is a direct assault on the modern condition. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Every app, every streaming service, every algorithm-driven feed is designed to give you a small, unearned hit of dopamine. Musashi warns that a life spent chasing these hits is an empty one. Real fulfillment doesn't come from indulging every fleeting desire, it comes from mastering yourself. Think of your focus as a finite resource. Every moment you spend on a cheap thrill is energy wasted on something with no long-term value. Musashi's isolation in the Reigandō Cave wasn't about suffering for the sake of it. It was tactical resource allocation. Every hour he spent in silence was an hour he didn't waste on meaningless chatter, an hour he could pour into distilling his life's wisdom. Chasing instant, unearned pleasure is a trap. The Dokkodo Method commands you to starve the part of you that craves hollow victories and instead feed the part that thrives on meaningful struggle. With a clear mind and severed lines of distraction, you're ready to act with precision and purpose. Musashi's principles of action were forged in a world that doesn't forgive mistakes. The sixth precept is, do not regret what you have done. High performers often get trapped by replaying past failures and second-guessing decisions. Musashi teaches that regret is a useless drain on your focus. The past can't be changed, so spending energy on it is illogical. Musashi didn't win over 60 duels. By brooding over a clumsy move in a previous fight, he learned from the error, absorbed the lesson, and immediately redirected his complete focus to the blade right in front of him. To be effective, you must learn to commit to a decision, execute, and move on. The moment an action is done, it's history. Your focus belongs on what's next. This leads to the 15th precept, do not act following customary beliefs. The path of the warrior, the creator, or the leader is not the path of the crowd. Convention is the enemy of breakthroughs. Musashi himself was a radical innovator. He developed and perfected the Naiten Ichi-Ryu, his famous two-sword fighting style, precisely because he refused to be bound by the single-sword traditions of his time. For us today, the message is clear. Don't follow industry norms just because they're norms. Don't adopt a belief just because it's popular. Question everything, test every assumption. Your greatest strength might be found in the very method that everyone else writes off as unconventional. Finally, we have the 11th precept, a principle of ultimate focus. In all things, have no preferences. This doesn't mean living a life of apathy. Musashi obviously had a preference to master the way of the sword. This precept means you must get rid of any preference that doesn't serve your main objective. Every preference you hold for comfort, for luxury, for certain foods, for social approval, it's all a potential vulnerability. It's a hook that can be used to pull you off your path. When your mission is your only true preference, you become unstoppable. You're no longer distracted by what others are doing, what's trending, or what feels comfortable. All of that is just noise. You have tunnel vision, and your objective is the only thing in sight. This doctrine isn't meant for a bookshelf. It's meant to be used. Musashi didn't just think about these principles. He lived them, sitting on a rock in a cold cave, with nothing but his mind and his will. To start applying this method, you have to replicate his conditions of focus. I call this the 1-hour blackout. This is your modern Reigandō Cave. The protocol is simple, but it is not easy. For 1 hour, you enter a state of total sensory lockdown. No phone, no computer, no music, no distractions of any kind. Find a quiet room or a spot in nature. Your only tools are a notebook and a pen. During this hour, your mission is to identify one critical area of your life where you're failing to apply the Dokkodo. Are you chasing cheap pleasure instead of tackling a hard goal? Are you paralyzed by regret over a past mistake? Are you being pulled off course by preferences that don't serve your mission? Isolate the problem, then write down your tactical response. Don't write about your feelings. Write what you will do. This isn't a journaling session. This is a strategic planning session with yourself. You are forcing clarity through extreme constraint. This is how you take the abstract idea of solitude and forge it into a weapon. The noise of the modern world is a constant grinding force designed to make you compliant, distracted, and weak. The Dokkodo is the counteroffensive. It teaches that your focus is your most valuable asset, and that true, intentional solitude is the forge where you sharpen it into a weapon. Miyamoto Musashi's final teaching, the way of walking alone, is a call to radical self-reliance. It's the understanding that, in the end, your path is your own, your battles are your own, your victory must be your own. This isn't a path of loneliness, but one of inner strength, clarity, and absolute purpose. It's a return to the self, not as an act of retreat, but as an act of power. The Dokkodo is not a philosophy to be studied. It is a doctrine to be lived. If this way of thinking resonates with you, subscribe for more wisdom on the warrior's path. Hit the like button to signal you're ready to start, and share your own experiences with focus and solitude in the comments below.